You ever notice how wars never start when you're ready for them? I sure didn't ask for one with my neighbors. Never wanted to be that guy fighting over fence lines or property markers. All I wanted was a little peace. Quiet mornings where the only thing you heard was the lake breathing against the dock, the pines whispering if the wind was right, maybe a bluegill splashing if you were lucky. I had that peace once, my own little heaven on Clearwater Lake, tucked so far from the city you forgot what traffic sounded like. 3 generations we'd been here, my grandfather buying it in '52 when a handshake was all you needed, my dad teaching me how to fish, how to patch a canoe, and then me, pouring my army pension into a long ranch house that caught the light just right. Thought it'd stay that way forever. Yeah, you know how that goes. It all shifted 2 summers ago, when a swarm of trucks rolled in on the ridge and slapped up a sign for Whispering Pines, some premier lakefront HOA community, with houses you needed a spreadsheet just to heat. No warning, no neighborly handshake, just bulldozers eating up trees, backhoes grading the land. At first, I figured progress is progress, right? Long as they stayed on their side, we'd be fine. I had the deed, had the surveys, had the lake. Only thing they didn't have was my patience, and that's when Karen Whitaker showed up. She comes knocking at 7:15 on a Tuesday, crisp windbreaker, clipboard tucked so tight you'd think it was a badge, smile so rehearsed it could give you a rash. Shared ecosystem responsibilities, she said, community lake stewardship, like I'd never spent a day on that water before her parents were even a thought. Next thing I know, she's telling me about dock paint and fertilizer, what's compliant and what's not, and I'm standing there thinking, lady, I don't even belong to your HOA. But she's got plans, big ones. Whispering Pines is applying for a zoning overlay, which is a fancy way of saying they want to annex my land without asking. She calls it community alignment. I call it what it is, war. Didn't take long before things started moving. Fast. Fences crept toward my property like ivy, Whispering Pines folks accidentally, walking dogs over the line, parties by the water, jet skis after midnight. Every complaint I filed vanished into the air. Karen always had some excuse. A map was wrong, or the county is considering changes. I tried to play nice, but the morning I saw a concrete mixer rolling up next to my dock, I knew she wasn't just testing limits anymore. She was betting I'd fold. That day, I walked the whole property line, checking boundary markers my grandfather drove into the ground 50 years back, rusted, bent, but real. When I hit the far edge near the dock, there it was, a new chain-link fence, 10 feet from my porch, gleaming and humming like it owned the place. On the other side, construction supplies stacked neat as tombstones. And right on cue, Karen's SUV pulled up, her smile as smug as ever. Temporary safety measure, she said. Liability. All on my land. She had paperwork, she said. Or would have, soon. They always do. So I started fighting fire with fire. Dug up every deed, every survey, every yellowed topo map with my grandfather's handwriting on it. Called Walter, old army buddy turned real estate lawyer, tough as nails, sharp as glass. We put together enough documentation to choke a goat. Emergency injunction, lawsuit for trespass, demand for a demolition order. The works. Karen's game was always to push just far enough nobody'd make a fuss, but she'd picked the wrong guy. I wasn't folding. That week in court, you should have seen the look on her face. Walked in with 2 attorneys in suits so shiny you could see your regrets in them, and that same smug kid with the leather briefcase like he was starring in a TV show. Judge Ellerby didn't have time for nonsense. Walter laid out the whole case. Old surveys, GPS video of every marker, a hand-drawn 1954 topo map, even Karen's little revised plat with its forged lines. The judge called it what it was, fraud. Stop work order issued right then and there. Case sent to the DA, and Karen's face went paler than the drywall in her half-built mansion. But that was just the start. Digging through county archives, I found something Karen didn't count on, a 1975 preservation easement. My grandfather had locked down a 100-foot buffer around our side of the lake. No builds, no roads, no nothing, for wildlife and family. Still active, still legal. Sent it to Walter, called up my old friend Jim at Environmental Enforcement, and, boom, county on site. Inspector in mirrored shades walking the property, Karen sputtering about reclassification. Her own HOA members started to revolt when they found out the truth. Turns out, she was using HOA funds for a private mansion, not a community clubhouse. Residents showed up at my door to apologize, some even brought pies. You know how Americans are when they're really sorry. Then came the historical twist. My family's little cemetery out in the trees. Old stones with initials, 100 years of Thompson buried in the dirt. That meant we could apply for heritage protection. Lock it all down so it could never be touched. By the time the story broke, papers running headlines about HOA president under investigation. Karen's empire was crumbling from the inside. Court came around again, and the place was packed. Lawyers, reporters, even local activists. Judge Ellerby read through everything. Permanent injunction granted. All illegal structures removed at HOA's expense. Karen hit with fines, criminal investigation for fraud, banned from any future board. Her fancy mansion got torn down by county crews. Wild grass planted where concrete once sat. The birds came back. The peace I'd fought for started to feel real again. But that wasn't the end. A retired IRS guy from Whispering Pines dropped a bomb in my mailbox, photocopies of HOA funds. Funneled into a shell company, Whitaker Project Management. Walter handed it to the DA, and soon enough, Karen was exposed for what she was, a grifter, not a queen. A reporter traced her name back. To another county, same scam, different victims. The community finally woke up. I started getting invites to speak at meetings, share my story about land rights and HOAs gone rogue. I'm no politician, but I told the truth. If you don't fight for your story, someone else will write it for you. People listened. Other neighborhoods started asking for help. Funny, the guy who just wanted to fish off his dock became the voice for folks tired of getting pushed around. Last I saw Karen, she was just a silhouette in jeans and a jacket at the edge of her old empire. No words. No power, just a woman with nothing left to steal. When the last bulldozer pulled away, the scars in the ground felt honest. Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about setting down the weight they tried to lay on you. I let her burn in the fire pit and walked down to the water, felt the wind moving through the pines just like it always did. Now the wildflowers grow again. Where her mansion once stood, the lake's as calm as it ever was, and the county's using my grandfather's preservation for a case study in what's right. People wave when they pass, kids fish off my dock, neighbors bring over firewood and thank you cards. Peace isn't just the absence of war. It's what you get when you fight for what's worth keeping, when you protect the story that made you. So if you ever find yourself standing at the edge of a line someone else is trying to move, remember, sometimes you have to draw it in stone, not sand. Now, I'd love to hear what you think. Was I right to push back, or did I go too far? Where's the line between protecting your legacy and just starting another fight? Drop your thoughts below, hit like if you know someone who's tangled with an HOA, and share this if you believe in standing your ground. Because sometimes, the only way to keep the peace is to fight for it.